Huge news, Mark Williams playing his first back-to-back of the season.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Psychos and sickos unite for a hashtag the planned edition of the PHNX Suns pregame show, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. I'm Eric. That's Espo. We got the freckled mamba behind the Mac making all of the magic happen as the Phoenix Suns are back in action after beating the Pelicans last night. Another one in New Orleans tonight. An exciting game for a variety of reasons. An interesting injury report. We always know that these games get chippy between the Pelicans and the Suns, even throughout the years now. But Espo, the Suns, 4 games above 500, looking to make it 5 tonight.
If they make it 5 tonight, then you got the Wizards next. It could be 6 games over 500 before you face the Cleveland Cavaliers on on New Year's Eve, which is insane to think that this team could have the chance to be 7 games over 500 going into the new year. This team is surprised in every way, shape, and form this season, and I am excited to see what they're capable of doing tonight against this team. Second night of a back-to-back against the same team. We saw how chippy it got. We saw how frustrated they got with the refs last night, and that should make it interesting. I think we underplayed one part of last night's game.
Please, hit me.
When Dillon Brooks told the ref to get his hands off of him. That was a part of the game that I thought about it in the moment and completely forgot when we got to postgame, because I think it was a very fair point. The ref placed his hands on Dillon while Dillon was trying to talk to the other ref. Now, if Dillon did that to a ref, he's thrown out of the game. The ref does it, no consequence.
If LeBron does it, he's given an award.
Well, that's true. That's true. I found that very interesting, and I think obviously it won't be the same referee crew tonight, but I think that might carry over.
Well, and I think that was also the same ref, or at least there was a ref in the crew that Brooks had gotten into it, I believe, in the first Lakers game about a week and a half ago. So it is interesting to kind of see these patterns. And again, it's a reputation that the Suns have earned. They're a physical team. You have Dillon Brooks on the team. Devin Booker is notorious about complaining to refs, but at the end of the day, it was still atrocious last night. And yeah, it's a new crew tonight. I
believe so.
I'd hope so, because if it's not, then Pelicans might get to the line 50 times. Definitely an interesting game last night, and it makes tonight even more interesting when you look at the injury report brought to you by our friends over at the Husband and Wife Law Team. If you've got a serious injury, call the Husband and Wife Law Team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at husbandandwifelawteam.com. All over the place on the injury report today. Of course, Jalen Green's still out, right hamstring strain. He'll be evaluated in a couple of weeks. Grayson Allen, not going to be seen in New Orleans on this trip. He's out, continuing with his right knee injury management. Jordan Goodwin continues to be available with his jaw sprain. Ryan Dunn out with right knee soreness, which is not a terrible designation for what we saw happen to him last game. But the big news, the big veto, back in action for the first time on a back-to-back. Mark Williams is available on the Pelican side of things, still missing Herb Jones and DeJounte Murray. But Espo, all eyes on the man in the middle who had maybe his best game as a Phoenix Sun last night. They're going to need him again tonight to step up big.
I kind of wonder if they've always had this circled in terms of how many games you've had off in this month. And this is probably the best time to test out how he responds to a back-to-back, because they have had a lot of nights off. And quite frankly, after watching last night's game, you need him against this team because you're going to have to score points in the paint and hopefully find your three-point stroke. But great to see Mark out there. The plan hopefully goes according to plan tonight, and the big Vito goes out there and plays a huge part of this game.
And I'm hoping that, yes, maybe this date has been specifically circled, but more just like, hey, when you feel like this after a game, that's when you get to it. I'm a little surprised because I thought we would start seeing his minutes creep up above 30 before we started seeing back-to-backs. I'm really thrilled by this. I'm going to be fascinated with how he looks tonight because what makes Mark Williams different, and we saw it on full display yesterday, was the motor, the athleticism, the verticality. If he looks exactly the same as he did the night before, for a guy that's dealt with a lot of injury problems in his career, you've got to give kudos to his Suns training staff that, let's be honest, has taken some crap this year with the amount of injuries this team has sustained. A lot of eyes on not just him playing Espo, but how he moves tonight.
100%. You need to see him run up and down the court like you saw yesterday. You need to see those quick hands. Everything has to look as close to yesterday as possible. I'm not sure we ever see him well over 30 minutes. I think that might be the part of the plan that stays true the entire year, is play him around 30 minutes so he's capable of playing longer this season in terms of number of games. And then if you make the playoffs, maybe at that point you turn it up a little bit more and kind of protect him in that way if you're going to start playing him in back-to-back.
Well, it's been this kind of slow incline, right? He doesn't play in the preseason, comes off of the bench to start the regular season, eventually starts 5 games in, doesn't crack 30 minutes except for that one overtime game against the Jazz where he basically powered them to that win. Okay, but now you're not playing back-to-backs, but you're still playing around 30 minutes. And now you're finally here in December, you're playing a back-to-back against a team which, let's be honest, this is a good matchup for Mark Williams. They don't have a big man that can really go up against Mark. If this was a back-to-back against the Houston Rockets, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if Mark Williams plays because that's a much more physically demanding back-to-back. It's going to be fascinating, and it's another reason, Espo, to be excited about what the future for this team holds because, yes, we'll talk about Jalen Green still not being on the team. Grayson Allen, who's now missing his 13th game of the season, his 6th game in a row. No Ryan Dunn tonight, which should open up some minutes for some other guys. We haven't been able to see Mark Williams on full display for this team this season. It's yet another notch for them in the impressive category of, hey, you're over-exceeding what you should be right now.
100%. And it is all about building up. It's not about, like you said, it's not about early in the year going full bore. It's about slowly building up to your potential. And the other guy I'm really excited to see tonight due to the injury to Ryan Dunn is Rasheer getting those additional minutes as well. I think that's going to be very exciting to see what he's able to do. He came out, played 10 minutes last night, had those 6 points, was active. I'm really interested in seeing what he can do with some extended minutes.
Well, and I think especially because he knows that he's going to be called on tonight. I'm sure that, the injury report came out about an hour or so ago. Obviously, I would say internally, they're probably talking to Sheer and saying, hey, we're going to expect you to play tonight. Breaking news from the Freckled Mamba, though. Mark Williams is playing on the second night of a back-to-back, but he's not starting. Colin Gillespie, Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, Royce O'Neal, and Oso Ighodaro. How do you feel about that?
It is an interesting way to limit minutes by not starting him.
I think it's understandable. I kind of broke down that ramp up at the beginning of the season, right? He started the season on the bench. So if you're going to do something new, then put him off of the bench.
Yeah, I think this goes to the point that it's not if you start a game, it's if you finish a game that's the most important, especially if it's close. So, plus this will put him against likely the second string guys
Zion
for New Orleans as well. So my guess is Ott also saw something in yesterday's game that he thought this could be to the Suns' advantage as well. So help limit minutes or at least change the way that you go about Mark's minutes, but also maybe gain an advantage because Jordan Ott rarely does something if there's not an advantage to be gained as well.
Well, and I think Oso's playing a lot better now than he was at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, he was kind of put in a really tough spot when it came to just being asked to do a little bit too much. I think Oso's been playing a lot more confident. And again, if there's any game to start Oso Ighodaro in, it's against this Pelicans team that isn't exactly big in the center position. Sure, you've got Zion, who is a unique matchup. Derek Queen's a big body, not exactly a huge guy, though. This is kind of the best team to experiment with this. Plus, with Colin Gillespie starting as well, and we'll get to Rasheer in a second because I really want to dive into him. But with Colin Gillespie starting, we've seen Colin and Oso develop this really great two-man chemistry, and Oso's a fantastic passer. This might open up some space for Devin Booker to operate off the ball in the starting lineup a little bit more, with Oso being able to be a little bit more of an initiator than Mark, who's more of a play finisher.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the greatest matchup, as we saw how much Mark dominated down low. You're not going to get that from Oso. That's just not his game. So I don't know if you rely a little bit more on Dylan in that post and in that lane to try to get you some additional points with that starting group. Because if your three's not falling, you saw last night you had to turn to Mark and everything in the lane. And I mean, they shot 8 of 40 last night from three. That's not a passable number to be able to do. And this is a New Orleans team that gives up more 3-pointers than anybody. So, and we know Oso's not going to hit from out there, and he's not exactly the paint force. So you got to hope that he's helping find guys open from deep, or finding guys, that are rolling to the hoop. But I don't know that this is an ideal matchup with what we saw Mark be able to do down low.
Your point on the three-point shooting, I want to give a shout-out to Shane Young, who's been so great in his new role with the Suns. He tweeted last night, "The Suns became one of the only teams this season to win a game despite shooting 20% or worse on 40-plus three-pointer attempts. It's only happened 3 times in the last 2 seasons. OKC's done it twice in the last 2 seasons, and Phoenix did it this season. That is the only time that a team has won a game where they've shot that poorly on that many three-point attempts." That was a rare win last night for the Suns, Mark being a huge part of that. So him being off the bench is certainly going to be an interesting dynamic, and especially what his minutes load might be. If it's going to be like 15 to 20 instead of 30. And that's why my eyes are on Rasheer Fleming, right? Because Rasheer Fleming is kind of the X factor for this game. He is somebody that if he can give you good positive minutes like you got out of Ryan Dunn last night, and you got out of Sheer, but in a very short amount of time, that's going to make me feel a lot more comfortable about taking care of this Pelicans team that's going to be going in tonight feisty and trying to pick up a victory.
Well, yeah, Rasheer's aggressive, and I like that. He did not come in timid despite being a rookie, despite coming in not knowing likely that he was going to get minutes after, because nobody can predict an injury. So he came in, was aggressive. If he had hit one of those 2 threes that he got, that's a totally different night too, because then he only misses 2 shots. He has 9 points in 10 minutes. But I want to see him continue to be aggressive from deep, because he has a better offensive game than Ryan Dunn. This could be the start of him earning significantly more minutes. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for, and this is why also you send him down to the G League, so you keep him fresh and ready in case you need to turn to him because of an injury.
Well, and that's kind of the interesting thing with Rasheer throughout this season, is that he finally cracked the rotation at the beginning of what was considered this gauntlet schedule in Portland. Then he rolled his ankle, then he was back out of it, then he played in the G League, had some good performances in the G League, never really got back in. This is an opportunity for him. Last night was an opportunity for him. Rex Chapman said it on the broadcast. This kid has no idea how good he could be. I love the confidence from him, and him just being out there with his build, his nose for rebounding the ball, and they're going to need a type of guy like that against this team. I think he's going to have a good game tonight. I don't think he's going to be the best player on the court, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here gushing for like 10 minutes about Rasheer Fleming minutes in postgame.
Rasheer Fleming's dunking on somebody tonight.
You think so? Who?
I'm calling it.
Jose Alvarado?
Maybe Zion. I'd love to see a little Zion.
Would you rather him dunk on Zion or Jose Alvarado?
Zion.
Like, Zion would be more impressive. But I think I'd prefer for him to dunk on Jose Alvarado.
Well, I mean, yeah, anytime you can disrespect Jose Alvarado, you're going to take the chance. But Rasheer has so many qualities of a guy that we keep saying this team needs. Size, defensive ability, the ability to stretch the floor. All of a sudden, if he becomes a legitimate piece of your rotation, you may not have to turn to a trade like you felt you did for potentially a guy that can play the power forward spot, positionless basketball, but that bigger size forward spot. And you might be able to focus on, okay, can we get a third center in here that can help, it could change the entire dynamic of what you're doing over the next 5 weeks.
I think January is going to be a really big month for Rasheer. It's going to be a really big month for the Suns. I mentioned it when Jalen Green got injured. That runway to the trade deadline is getting shorter and shorter, and we have not seen this team fully healthy. It's been a blessing and a curse because we've allowed guys like Colin Gillespie, like Oso, hopefully now like Rasheer Fleming, to kind of make their mark and say, this is who we can be on this team. It's the curse in not knowing what you look like fully healthy. But with Rasheer, with a night that you have to play Oso, more so, Barnes, than you usually do, having Rasheer at the 4 instead of a Royce, or even a Dylan, who is a passable 4, but not a great rebounder and not a very lengthy guy, when you're losing Mark Williams for about probably 10 minutes, I would assume, tonight, and usually a very effective 10 minutes. If Mark played 20 last night, they lose that game. Being able to put somebody of a bigger build next to Oso Ighodaro, I think will play in their favor, at least defensively.
Yeah, we're certainly testing the next man up theory that this team has had, because, again, you're going one layer deeper into that rotation than you usually would, but this is a testament to how they built this team around a lot of talent rather than just top-end talent. I think it was Bleacher Report ranked the Suns team the 26th best big three in the NBA. And it's like, yeah, that was the point.
Cool with me, man.
Yeah, because guess
cool
what?
With me.
Guess what? You don't need a big three when you have 3 layers deep in a rotation that you can turn to and be effective. And Rasheer's got to prove that yet again they can go to that well and still succeed.
Yeah, Ryan Dunn being out tonight, I thought last night was one of his best games of the season. As excited as I am to see Rasheer, the same way that the Suns lose that game if Mark plays 10 less minutes. If Ryan Dunn doesn't come back from his knee injury last night, they're losing that game. Clutch block on Zion, clutch steal, and almost double-double with 9 points and 8 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds for Ryan Dunn last night. It will be big shoes to fill for Rasheer Fleming, who, yes, got to play, but also got to play with Ryan Dunn coming back and starting that game and having a good impact for them. It's going to be fascinating. I have full faith in Jordan Ott. I know you have full faith in Jordan Ott. It's almost like he has fun doing this type of stuff, getting Jamari Bouye out there, Jordan Goodwin making a big impact, who was 0-7 from deep last night. Hopefully he can change that around. And then the only other name, when we're still kind of on this long injury report conversation, that's good to not see on there is Colin Gillespie, who also exited last game, which seemed like some sort of groin issue. He slipped. He's not on the injury report at all, which I think is a great sign. You're going to need him to have another big game tonight with no Grayson Allen yet again.
100%. You need to see him hitting those passes. I think that's the biggest thing tonight, is letting Booker play off the ball, which we saw in that fourth. Colin was really good at helping with that. We also heard the broadcast talk about how much Devin trusts Colin and how that's been extremely helpful. But Colin was one of the few that shot well from deep last night. I actually believe he was 4 of 9, if I'm correct, 4 of 10 last night. So he had half
like shooting 100% for the Suns last night.
He had half the Suns 3-pointers last night. So you need him to continue to be able to hit from deep and hopefully have other people join along with him.
Yeah, I noticed this point in the chat, Joseph, and my brain immediately started clicking. It says Fleming and Mark minutes together off the bench. Kind of great for Rasheer that the center who's going to be coming off of the bench and probably playing the center, the backup center's lion's share of rotation minutes, will be the starting center for the Phoenix Suns. As much as I want to see Rasheer and Oso together, it's better for him to play alongside Mark. That is going to be fun. I think the most fun I had last night, besides the end when the Suns picked up the win, was the defensive 3-4-5 of Dylan Brooks, Rasheer Fleming, and Mark Williams, because it's just suffocating. I think we're going to see that tonight, and I'm really excited for it.
You kind of wonder if that's part of Coach Ott's thinking there is you're going to see Rasheer next to him, and maybe that helps ease Rasheer into these more significant minutes that he's going to play. I still am not really sure about not starting Mark. I still am questioning that, but
it's the hashtag plan.
I do see. Sure, I will trust it because it's worked so far. I question it, but I think that Rasheer point is a good one, that you're going to get to see something a little different there. But if you have to turn to somebody else in the center rotation tonight, just because you need extra minutes. Are
Oh.
you going Nick or are you
No,
going man?
I'm not going Nick Richards.
Or do you just go small ball and try to run him?
I think you might. I think you might go small ball. You might go Rasheer at the 5. Might go Brooks at the 5 because he can guard the center. I don't know. At this point, Nick Richards is completely out of the rotation. He's not getting victory cigar minutes. He's completely out. I think he's the only guy who didn't play last night. You probably give those minutes to man because if you do get to that point, one of two things is happening. Either you're blowing them out and you're just like, okay, we need somebody else to fill these minutes, or you're losing and you're like, okay, let's throw something at the wall. Let's just see what we have in man. This is a matchup that I think man could do well, and they're not a great defensive team in the middle, and they're a team that attacks the paint a lot, which means Kaman would have a lot of chances to alter shots at the rim. I personally would always lean towards playing man over Nick at this point, just because we're talking about a third string center, not starting, not backup centers at that point. Play the top 10 pick to give him a chance. But who knows? Maybe they try to beef up Nick Richards' trade value in the next month. I just don't know how he goes from being out of the rotation to in it in any facet tonight.
I just know the way they've watched Mark, they're going to be asking him significantly, how you feeling, what's going on. If there's anything, they're gonna completely limit those minutes. You're gonna have that in the back of your mind. I tend to agree that man's probably who I go to, but I suspect they probably would just go small ball and try to change the dynamic of the game by doing that.
Well, and New Orleans played a little sloppy at certain points last night, and so did the Suns. They're really going to need to clean up the turnovers tonight. The fact that they shot so poorly from deep and lost the turnover battle is kind of crazy, that they still found a way to win that game. But with if Nick Richards plays tonight, then that's a fine game for Nick Richards to play, because I don't think the Pelicans are that good. It's the same thing for man. And the last thing on the point with Mark and not loving him coming off the bench, I'll present you two options. Option number 1 is Mark Williams comes off the bench tonight, or option number 2 is Mark Williams doesn't play on the second night of the back-to-back. We're all taking option number 1.
Yeah, you changing what the guy's been doing, especially when your concern is injury, and having him come off the bench cold rather than right out of warm-ups. I just don't like messing with a guy's rhythm, especially when injury is the reason you've been concerned about all this.
Yeah, I think the fact that Mark takes really long extended breaks in the game because he can't play over 30 minutes a game might help a little bit. Plus, he did start the season this way and was effective. But I get what you're saying. You are kind of messing up this flow. We'll obviously see how he looks. I think playing-wise, he'll be fine, but how his body reacts will be something that we're all going to be keeping a close eye on as we have this entire season with Mark Williams. In the chat, somebody said something about Devin Booker. It was Mikori. I don't know where your first name stops and your last name starts, but I believe you're a Suns fan from Italy, so thanks for being here. Says, I feel like we need a super performance by D-Book tonight to get the win. We kind of got one last night. Arguably his best game of the season, not counting stats-wise, but eye test-wise, he was just in full control, especially in that fourth quarter. Do you think we're going to need an even better performance tonight for the Suns to get the job done?
I don't know better. I mean, he was 10 of 16, one of the better shooters last night, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. I'm not sure you can get much better than what we saw in totality last night. I think you need an equal performance at the very least, and he may need to take over more of the scoring load if Mark is limited and you're not finding that production elsewhere. But last night is the blueprint of what I want to see from Devin Booker on a regular basis.
Only 5 assists for him, and one of those coming at the Ryan Dunn layup at the end of the game. Not exactly what you come to expect out of Book, but you look at when those assists came and how crisp they were. It felt like Devin Booker really was just in full control over the Pelicans. He always has a little something extra for New Orleans, not just because he played high school ball 90 minutes away from Smoothie King Center, but also because of the long history, which if you want a little update on that, or if you're missing out on the history, we put a short up on that on the channel earlier. No Anime and Hoops. We're not doing a watch along for this one. We might be done with watch alongs for the 2025 part of the season. We'll be back in 2026 doing some watch alongs. And
we're considering maybe New Year's Eve.
Maybe.
We haven't decided.
That'll be their decision, because I won't be covering ASU football that night. But for tonight, is it a Suns must win? Last night, Devin Booker said it was a must win. Espo, you and I said it was a 10. Tonight, still high, averaging out for a 9.1. It's a 10 because I hate this team now. I always get reminded of how much I hate the Pelicans, because when we don't play them, they are so meaningless and nothing that I don't remember. And then we play them, God, I hate these guys. A 10. You're at an 8.9, Freckle Mamba an 8.5. So you've dropped down 1.1 from last night.
Yeah, you got the win last night, so you're guaranteed a split, which was the worst case scenario that you could have in this. Yeah, I think that this is pretty damn close to needing to definitely win it, but I give him a little leeway, especially with Mark limited minutes, Ryan out, and still no Grayson.
I think there are definitely reasons why this game is on paper less important than last night. But I also think the reason why last night was important is also the reason why tonight is important. Look, I know you just made it through the gauntlet part of your schedule. You don't get to play every game against the Pelicans. I know you got the Wizards next. The Cavs have not been that great. Your schedule is going to pick up again. You're going to hit an East Coast road trip where you play the Knicks, where you play the Pistons, where you play the Heat, who are always an interesting team to play. You're going to start playing these good teams in the West again.
OKC is in January.
OKC is in January. You got to stack wins against teams like New Orleans. And this is a New Orleans team that they said it in the chat. They're going to be coming out and they're going to be trying to play hard, not just because of the layup at the end, but the altercation between Dillon Brooks and Trey Murphy. Obviously, they have to have been sitting there at home all last night saying, we handed them the game. They missed 17 free throws and they lost by 7. That is something where if you are an opponent and you lost and now you're going and playing the Suns again, you're going to come in with a renewed focus. They're going to feel like they could have won that game. They have still won 5 out of their last 7, a majority of those at home. It's going to be a tough game for the Suns to win, but at the end of the day, the Suns are still better. They have the best player on the court, and if they play like they did last night, it'll be a close one, but they could win. If they play better and they shoot better from 3, this might be a blowout.
Ayrton, do we have my keys to the game? I just want to, this is the biggest thing that they have to do. Don't get screwed by the refs, don't get screwed by the refs, and don't get screwed by the refs.
Now, I have a problem with key 2. Keys 1 and 3, perfect. Key 2, I'm not sure.
The underlining's a little aggressive.
It is a little.
I'm not going to lie.
No, I don't think it's aggressive enough because it's not often that I include the refs in the headline. I had to include the refs in the headline yesterday. It'll be interesting to watch. I wonder what the physicality will be. I don't mind physicality and no whistles or light physicality and tight whistles. I just want it to be consistent. If you're going to call it one way, call it the other way. We'll see what actually happens. I can't call it when it comes to betting. I keep on losing. Let's get into our pregame picks. Presented by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Sign up. Use code PHNX365. Deposit 10. Place a bet for 5. And get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, you must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit promgambling.az.gov. I guess we could look at this. Hey man, you're not too far away from 0, okay?
Oh yeah,
I'm one bet away from passing you, brother. Look, if there's
I'm one bet away from being ahead of Gil. What's the yeah?
Okay. If there's anybody who should be most afraid of the guy in last place, it's you, Espo, who's at a plus 60, Ayrton at plus 74.50, Gil plus 134.50. Me, we don't need to talk about that. As for Gil, his bet tonight is he's still on vacation is Phoenix Suns money line minus 185. Ayrton, what are you putting your money on tonight? A sneaky second place for Ayrton in our betting so far.
Got something a little modest cooked up tonight. Devin Booker over 27.5 points. Dillon Brooks bounce back game over 15.5 points. And Jordan Goodwin, I think he's going to get 2 steals tonight, over 1.5 steals. And Mark Williams, 7+ rebounds, all at 390 plus that 30% profit boost.
I like it. Animan Hoop says, OMG, Eric, what the heck, man? Look, dude, I'm trying. This is what I put together tonight. This is before I knew Mark was coming off of the bench, but you know what? I think he could still do it. I'm taking Phoenix Suns money line, taking Devin Booker over 38.5 PRA. I'm taking Booker and Williams double-double. That's a plus 1050 with a 30% profit boost. I'm feeling a nice Devin Booker assist game tonight. Dillon Brooks maybe hitting some shots. And then Mark Williams, give me 11 and 10 off the bench. Something light, something easy. Espo, what are you putting your money on?
Enjoy your L this evening. I'm going with Devin Booker plus 25 points, Dillon Brooks plus 25 points, Colin Gillespie plus 15 points at a plus 675 with that 30% profit boost.
I don't hate it. Well, actually, I hate it because it means you might actually hit it. But when it comes to the line, we got a little sneak preview with Gil's bet. Let's take a look at the full. minus 185 on the money line for the Suns, minus 4.5 on the spread. For New Orleans, plus 155 on the money line, plus 4.5 for the spread. Not a big spread for the Suns, despite being a couple games above 500. In New Orleans looking to pick up their 9th win of the season. That's what the books think. What do we think? Let's get into our score predictions. Steven and Gil still frozen out as they are hanging out with their family on well-earned vacation. Espo taking a 10-point victory. I'm also taking a 10-point victory. You're 118 to 108. I'm 117 to 107.
So maybe it'll be close to that, or maybe it won't be.
Who knows? Here's the thing. We don't have the script. Only the refs do. And we'll have to see how it
No, they're
plays
rewriting it as the game
They
goes
tried.
on.
They really tried at the end of last game. It'll be fun for all the good, the bad, and everything in between of watching a game. We'll have you up to date with it all at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter. Also on Instagram as well. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I know a lot of you are here every single game, but if you are new, pregame, postgame shows for every single game. Plus, we cover all your favorite local Arizona sports here on a daily basis on PHNX Sports. Hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 50,000 as we approach 2026. You can follow the Freckled Mamba behind the Mac at Freckled Mamba. You can follow Espo at Espo. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. And hopefully we're back talking about back-to-back wins in the Bayou and Mark Williams scoring 50 off the bench.
Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.